7 o'clock, time to call the meeting to order. As soon as Councilor Jeunesse parks. Thank you. I'd like to continue with the First Nation territorial acknowledgement. And that's to say that I'm grateful to be able to thank the Sauk for their work over millennia in caring for the land and appreciate our opportunity to try and make the best decisions we can for the future while we're here. Okay, so moving on, I'm looking for an approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Pearson, seconded by Councillor Bateman. Any discussion of the agenda as it stands? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing none, I'm going to look for a motion to move the minutes. Moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor McMath. All in favor? Also passed unanimously. Thank you. Moving right along. I think we're ahead of schedule. That's good. Delegations, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Sergeant Greg Wilcox. Thank you.
Members of council, good evening. Thank you for having me here today. Excuse me. So the purpose of me coming before you today is just to present the last quarter statistics for the Sauk RCMP detachment, but also I wanted to present the annual calendar year statistics as well, and some tertiary stuff that the detachment is dealing with and going through right now. So there should be a quarterly report there. So this report is from October, December of 2023, and I just wanted to go over some of these stats and some of the trends that are happening that we're seeing in the detachment that are happening in the community as well. In regards to this, generally the stats were fairly similar to what we're going to see in other quarters, specifically at that time of the year. Again, this is October to December, but they're starting to trend in different directions. And there's going to be a theme that I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. But so for December or October to December, I'm just going to go, like, I know the agenda's bigger today, so I'm going to go through this as quick as I can, just for in respect of your time. But some of the things that we're seeing is generally the violent crime that's happening in our area is relatively the same, except we have seen a bit of an uptick in common assaults, not necessarily serious assaults or anything like that, but just common assaults. This is section 266 of the criminal code. So it's the lowest rung of assaults. However, there is a bit of an increase in that. For example, this past quarter, we had 26 compared to the last quarter from 2022, October to December of 18. So there is an uptick on that. One of the areas that I have been noticing an increase on is in regards to small property crime. Not necessarily anything large, but very small property crime. So if we go to theft, for example, and this is going to be like theft under $5,000. So not necessarily shoplifting, but theft under $5,000. We've seen 29 comparatively to the last quarter of last year, which is 14. So that's a double from those measures. The other ones that we're seeing right now, like they're still fairly low. It's very easy to have a large percentage increase when you say you had 2, the last quarter, and now you're at 6. It's very easy to say, oh, it's gone up by 300%, but it really hasn't gone up that much in terms of numbers. But the smaller property crime is one thing that we're looking at. For example, mischiefs, we've seen a larger uptick as well. And just for a reminder, this could be like damage to property, right? A broken window, or somebody damaged somebody's vehicle or personal property, or whatever it may be. So that was at 52 comparatively to 26 the previous quarter, or the same time period of last year in 2022. Now, one of the things I want to talk about as well in regards to our calls for service is the calls for service related to mental health. So this is something that over the years has been steadily increasing. We're getting more and more calls for service for mental health. And as a reminder to council, when we get called for mental health related incidences, that's in regards to somebody that's in an absolute crisis. Typically, they want to harm themselves, or they want to harm somebody else. And when we get called, it's a crisis state. This could be anything from somebody talking on perhaps a suicide hotline, or they're talking to a family member or a friend about harming themselves, and we would go and interdict and do our assessment there. And there's other times where somebody is, we believe that they're actually going to harm themselves or somebody else, and then we have to act under Section 20 of the Mental Health Act, and we take them into our custody and we bring them before a doctor. So this last quarter, we've had 35 calls for service when it relates to mental health. And I'll talk about the annual stats as well. That's about the same as that we had in the previous quarter of 2022, which was 41. A little bit less, but roughly the same too, right? So in regards to our annual stats, and this kind of gives a better picture of what we've been looking at for the calendar year of 2023. So there's a couple here that really stand out. First off, the files that we have. So this past year, calendar year, we have 5,389 calls for service. That is almost the same as it was in 2022, 5,480. But there's some imbalances there in regards to some of the trends that we're seeing in the community. So 76% of our total files, and actually, sorry, that's I should back up a little bit. That's for the total detachment. The calls in Sooke proper is 4,097. Last year's 4,094. So we'll call a spade, and it's pretty much the same. 76% of our calls for service are in Sooke, and 24% of them are in the provincial area. And so yeah, the provincial area had about 1,200 calls for service. So one of the things that we're seeing in regards to an uptick is theft under $5,000. So to give you, and this could, sometimes these stats do get skewed with shoplifting, but we bucketed it all into the same bucket, so to speak. So we've seen 73 calls for service in regards to that. That's up from 61. And that seems to be generally trending up. Now shoplifting specifically is 17 calls for service, and last year we had 7. I know for a fact that a lot of these do not get reported to police. They happen every day, and we talk to these business owners, and they do happen every day, and it's obviously very frustrating to them. But the stat that I have here is a bit inaccurate. I can tell you in the community it's happening a lot more, and it's causing a lot of issues for business owners. Another important stat that we have here, again, is our total calls for service when it relates to Mental Health Act files. Again, people who are in crisis. So we had 181 calls for service when it comes to that. So that is a high number in relation to 4,000 files that Sooke has. That's, call it 5% of the files that the municipality has is in regards to somebody in crisis. And this is something that is trending up as well. Last year it was 180, so it's really no change. But it's, as the population grows, there's going to be a natural migration or tailwind that those numbers are going to continue to increase. And these are things that we at times we can deal with them quite quickly, but at other times there's something where an officer will be taken off the road for an extended period of time, especially if we have to apprehend them under the Mental Health Act. And we have to bring them to the hospital so that they can see a doctor. So especially with driving time, and we all know how traffic is, that can add to that as well. And we find with these calls, our officers are out of service for longer as a result. Hospital tries to see the patient as quickly as they can, but they obviously have to triage everything, right? What they have at that time. Sometimes we're in and out very quickly. Sometimes it takes an extended period of time, and that's up to the hospital to manage that. Another stat in regards here that I just wanted to highlight was the impaired drivers in the community. So our staffing levels due to transfers and injuries generally were down this year, but we still managed to get 121 impaired drivers off the road. That's for our members, that's an incredible stat. And that's something that they seem to be turning out year after year. Our officers are very dedicated in finding impaired drivers, and having 121 is pretty remarkable. And that's actually down from last year. And I can say that's down from last year because we had one or two officers that were very good at finding impaired drivers. They were off for part of the year. If they're here for the whole time, the stat would be a lot higher than that. So it's not a trend. It's I think the trend is still high. And when I see stats like that, it's very much a double-edged sword, because on one hand, there's 121 drunk drivers that we found, and we know that there's more of them on the road, but so it must be high. But on the other hand, we've caught 121 impaired drivers and we took them off the roads. So it's a stat where it's very much a double-edged sword, but at the same time, it's the officers are very diligent on trying to find these drivers. In regards to where are we here? In regards to charges that the detachment is forwarding, this is an example of how our police service right now is uniform based. We don't have a prolific offender unit, but the uniform members still try and target our prolific offenders. So to give you an idea, last year we forwarded 343 charges to Crown. And this doesn't mean necessarily 343 people were charged, but we forwarded 343 separate charges to Crown. And in 2022, the beginning of 2023, some of our prolific offenders, which we targeted, are now they're in custody. They're out of the community and they're not causing chaos, because they're a very small percentage of the population that causes the greatest amount of calamity for everybody and crime. So this year, because some of those people were off the road, there's only 262 charges that were forwarded. So when I see things like that, it tells me that, especially when some of our prolific offenders are in custody, it shows that, those people are really causing a lot of damage to the community. And as a police agency, and any police agency in any municipality, we always try and focus on the prolific offenders. We also work with our partners too, because perhaps they're a social chronic offender. Perhaps they maybe they're shoplifting a sandwich at the grocery store just to eat every single day. So it's like, okay, well, there's a place for charges, but how about the support services there in the community? Maybe we can get that person food, every single day, and they won't commit those crimes anymore. So that, that's a very simplistic example, but things like that. Next I wanted to talk about was the 2024. It's always difficult to forecast. Predicting is almost a fool's game, because you can say one thing and then certain things happen, or there's some sort of black swan event, and then it takes your predictions way off. Saying that, I'm going to try and do it anyways to give you an idea of what we're expecting right now with the information I have now in 2024. So the biggest focus for detachment leadership is a transition over to 24-hour policing. So this is something that this is going to be a big positive change for us, something that the council has worked hard. Now, for clarity, you call at any time, a police officer will always come. At the end of the day, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, when, whenever RCMP was here, you call police will come. So that has never changed. But what changes with it is it's a major structural change for us. So the community will notice that there's a lot more officers out on the roads. They're going to be more visible, and there's going to be some other things that are going to happen as well. For example, there's going to be more traffic enforcement is one of them. And something that specific watches can focus. And there's also a prolific offender component that's embedded into the watch system that we can easily progress with this 24-hour police response. So it's also going to increase response times as well. So there's always going to be an officer in a police car somewhere. So, and they're going to be either driving around or investigating something or whatever it is that they're doing, but they're always going to be around. So response times are going to be better, which is going to be good. It's also going to eliminate our on-call as well, especially during non-peak hours. So there'll be none of that. And that's something that we relied on. One of the things with more officers on the road is naturally you're going to get more proactive enforcement at the end of the day, because there's going to be more officers in Sooke, there's going to be more eyes on the road, more impaired drivers, that sort of thing that they're gonna look at. So generally, like once the system's in place, I suspect that most of the metrics that aren't response related are going to increase. So our violation tickets or impaired driving. We'll be able to find more, especially like property crimes that are being, committed in action. So we'll have more eyes on the road. The next step for us, and this is more of a 2025 focus, but we're going to start building there, is to focus on a GIS unit, which focuses on major crime and target enforcement on prolific offenders. And with the stats that I had before, we had a reduction in the amount of charges because we are targeting those prolific offenders, which is what we want to do. But uniform members can't always do this. If we have a GIS section which focuses on major crime that happens in the community, but also on prolific offenders, you're going to see that pressure on them more. So, and something that they probably haven't experienced yet in Sooke. So we're very much looking forward to that. And that's going to happen with the next round of officers that come next year. I anticipate that as the population grows in Sooke, and I've said this many times before, and everybody in here knows this, Sooke is a growing community. But with the population growth and general community migration towards Sooke from other areas, Victoria or Vancouver, or, wherever people are coming from, that's going to be a tailwind. And we're going to see naturally some of the stats go up with the population as it goes up. So again, like I said, increase in officers on the road will naturally lead to more proactive enforcement. I don't suspect that any of the crime stats will jump up considerably, again, unless there's some sort of black swan event or whatever it may be. But they should increase marginally as we go. Common calls, we're likely going to continue to see our thefts, common assaults, mischiefs, impaired driving, and mental health act files. So I suspect that trend is going to continue, and we'll continue to go to those calls. Now, my job as a detachment commander is to find as many ways, and sometimes creative ways, to enhance our service and provide the best service that we can to the community. So it looks like I actually just had a meeting today that we're going to bring back the Speedwatch program. So that's a group of volunteers that go to targeted areas, and they have the big sign with, shows your speed, and they're there and that sort of thing. It's a non-enforcement thing, but, we work with ICBC with this, and there's a noticeable change in driver behavior when they see that. No different than us with, a radar gun or a laser gun. When they see us, we just want people to slow down, especially in high risk areas like school zones, construction zones, and obviously our major thoroughfares that we have in the community. We just want people to slow down. So at the end of the day, and just drive safe. One of the larger things that we're working on in the background is our conversion from public service employees to municipal employees. This is as we're over municipality over 15,000 people. The provincial employees we're hoping will get converted to a municipal employee, and it's something that at the end of the day we'll need to do, but we're working hard in the background to get that done, which will be beneficial for us as it allows us to we have a couple new hires that we want to keep for the next 20 years, and this is the path in order to keep them. And we need these people in order, they're they're the reasons why the detachment runs at the end of the day. If we didn't have them, we wouldn't have gas in the car and the lights wouldn't be on. So, you know, we need these employees to be looked after, and it's something that we're working on in the background. So in regards to the detachment with the new people coming, like I said, the leadership's main priority just for the detachment service is to get to that 24-hour level. So we've already initiated a number of transfers for new officers to come here to increase our complement. So those are already in the works. I don't, it's difficult for me to say exactly the date that the transition will go, just because I have to wait for people to get here. So people have to sell their homes, or they have to purchase a home here, whatever it may be, and I have to get bodies and chairs. And once I have that, it's very easy to flip the switch. We've done a lot of the work in the background. We flip the switch and away we go. So so that's very exciting. I'm hoping most of the bodies will be here by spring, and we can get this going in the summer. But saying that, I don't want to swear by that, because there's things that can happen that are out of my control. But we're working as fast as we can to do it, and that's certainly a top priority for us. Just in regards to generally just with the budget, we've the last report that I've seen that it's you know, there's going to be a surplus there. We had to purchase some additional items for the new staff that's coming in, but there's a pretty healthy surplus there. So saying that, detachment 2024 will likely be fully staffed. So again, I can't necessarily predict the future, but what I see right now is we're going to have a fully staffed detachment, especially at the back half of the year, which is going to be fantastic for the community, more officers on the road, and it's a better service delivery. I cannot predict injuries or when members go off. There's occupational stress injuries as well. This is a very high demand, stressful job, and from one day to the next, you don't know what you're going to go into. And but we work very hard with the members and to ensure that their, you know, mental health and well-being is good. But again, I can't predict any injuries. But and lastly, just in regards to the budget, I always try and run any vacancies we have on the municipal lines, and that's where the surplus every year, long before I've gone here, but that's where they come, because we run those vacancies on the municipal business line, and we try and transfer the cost as much as we can to the province. So we keep those positions filled and that sort of thing. So I will be seeking more provincial constables as well. I never know what the outcome of these are, but I'll always be seeking more, and I've put a request in for more. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's a net benefit to Tsuut, because it's something that, you know, the municipality does not pay for. It's paid for by the province. Yes, they're provincial constables, but they also respond to files here. So we don't segregate municipal and provincial constables, as council knows. So so we'll be looking for that. And I tried to go through it as quickly as I can. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's my report for today's meeting.
Thank you very much, Sergeant Wilcox. Any questions from council? Council Pearson.
Yes, thank you for your robust report, and you did speed it up quite a bit. So I'll try to keep up to you. I can't listen to stuff, John. Anyways, thank you for the great work that you're doing. I have a couple of specific questions, and I appreciated that we were at the Homeless Coalition meeting. So my question's around, and I talked a little bit about metrics, and I've been thinking about that. You know, when you have to respond to a call for crisis or mental health act, is it one officer has to travel with the person to the hospital, or is it two?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilor Pearson. That's a very good resource related question. It's the answer is it depends. So allow me to present two scenarios. One is when we respond to somebody in crisis, there are a lot of times where we don't actually have to take somebody to the hospital. Like, you know, for example, maybe they made a comment that somebody's concerned about, maybe a few hours before and we talked to them, they said, no, I'm completely fine. Hey, I'm with so-and-so, like I'm good. I just, had a moment of weakness. Okay, that's fine. They have to be in an immediate crisis. So if somebody's in an immediate crisis, generally it's going to be one officer that goes. There are times where two have to go. I would say that's the low probability time, because sometimes when somebody's in a lot of crisis, they may be very violent. So for officer safety reasons, two will have to go, but I would say a vast majority of the time it's just one.
So, which leads me right into my next question. Thank you. And I think I
Like that. Is there an opportunity for another agency or organization, or does it have to be a police officer that takes that person in?
Yeah, and that's a good question. So sometimes there's different mental health supports. However, just like policing, the resources are often, fairly thin. When people are calling us, somebody is in a lot of crisis. And at times, like there could be an element of like when somebody's saying that they want to hurt somebody else, it's not appropriate for, like, say, example, a mental health worker or a community nurse or a nurse in general, to maybe go and put themselves in that position where they might be encountering somebody who may be potentially be violent. Now, our officers are trained in de-escalation, and they a lot of the times they know the people because they've dealt with them a number of times. So they have that relationship with them too. And even if it's somebody new, like, we talk first, right? But there is, for example, like the CAR 68 program, like MCERT here, where there is a nurse and a police officer that their role is to primarily deal with people that are in crisis, and they do come out here. But the issue is that there's only one of them, so they're a wonderful help, and the whole Capital Regional District appreciates their time and their resources. But there's just, there's only so many of them. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. But
It does, and what I would like to do is explore that further with you, because where I'm kind of going with that is from a strategic planning point of view from the district, because that's where we're going to enter into now. Are we better off to be investing and funding in that way? A community health nurse or a mental health nurse or a mental crisis type nurse to keep police in the community as a safety effect? Because I see that, if you're, you and your officers are headed in towards, Vic General Hospital and are there for 8 hours, that's 8 hours of not being covered in suit. That's kind of where I'm thinking. So I think you and I should have that dialogue so I can understand that better. So thank you. I did have a whole bunch of questions, but I think in order of time, I'll so as the municipality grows, you're getting more officers. I'm going to ask two questions. Is the current station in the right location? And is it going to be big enough? Because, you're putting 2 or 3 or 4 more officers in there around the clock. I recognize they're spread out over 24 hours, but is that on the horizon as something that's going to be coming at us as a municipality?
yeah, thank you for that question. It would be more in the, like, it's not something that's coming around the corner tomorrow, because that's a massive capital purchase as well, any new building or new detachment, because there's also provincial bodies there as well. My thought of it is, first, to answer your first question, it is in a good location, because whenever you have a detachment, you want to be able to give very clear and easy directions, especially somebody who's not from here. So you can just simply say, hey, go on Souk Road and turn right at church, and you'll see us. You can't miss us. The sign's there, detachment's there. But when you have a detachment where, you have to, go to, down a couple side streets and that sort of thing, it's just hard for people to get there, and it's not as convenient. If it's not as convenient, less people want to go there. So that's not something that we want. So location's great, but there's other good locations as well. The second point is, from my perspective, in order to give the best level of policing that we can with the resources that the municipality has, and I'm certainly not in charge of those, but it's important to stack like, I'll have members working on top of each other if I have to. If I have the choice between a new building or more officers to have a prolific offender unit, or maybe a traffic unit, or community, like a school liaison, or I'm spitballing things out there, but I would rather have that. But the community is growing, and the detachment there is going to come to a time where it can't support the people that we have in there. It is a provincial building, and we are going to be doing a reno there. So it just depends on how quickly community grows. From the last census, the community, like the municipality, grew by 16%. That's a massive growth metric, and driving around here and seeing the construction, it doesn't look like it's letting up anytime soon. So it's very important to plan for that and plan for the future. So in 10 years, how many people are going to be living in Sooke, because all these are steadily going to be increasing. Yeah, that's something that a bridge will have to cross at some point.
More comment. So I'm glad, given your last comment, that we have made a commitment to 5 new officers over these next 3 years. So we are responding to that. I did have a number of questions. You've answered them in your very thorough presentation, sir. Renewed fair warning to our impaired drivers. Now, this is year round. It doesn't necessarily involve formal roadside checks, right? This is which we anticipate at Christmas.
Yeah, and that would be the counterattack program and just the general roadblocks. The officers that I have here are some of the most skilled I've ever seen at detecting impaired drivers. Skills far beyond what I have as a police officer for 17 years. And it's quite incredible. And they do it night after night. And that's why our numbers are so high. The road checks are very good for visibility. They're not always good at getting results for impaired drivers. Word gets around quite quickly. So the officers that are looking for impaired drivers are targeting high risk areas and areas where there's typically impaired drivers around.
And thanks also for agreeing and organizing this coffee with a cop on February 10th at Cafe Vizina. So, and I think you're welcoming anyone in the community to come and meet with you and build relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe it's February the 7th. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's a 7th. Okay. I want to write it down because I also didn't want to say the wrong name or the date in case it came up, but it's 9:30 to 11 a.m. But it's just an opportunity. Not everybody has the opportunity to actually sit down with a police officer. I'm going to be there and talk about different things in the community, concerns that they may have, things that they like seeing, changes that they want to see, or just general talk about public safety. I'm the detachment commander. I represent the RCMP, and I'm more than happy, and I love talking to people because at the end of the day, they're the ones that tell us where the issues are. And I base my enforcement off of where the issues are. And this is a great opportunity to have respectful conversations about policing in Sooke.
If there's no other, I have a couple of quick questions. Oh, Councillor Yanez.
Just one very quick one. Thanks for that very thorough report. But I just wanted to ask you if you've heard from our MLA yet.
Yes, I have. I was actually supposed to have a meeting with him the other week, and he came to the office, and I wasn't there because I got called to a operational matter. So we're rescheduling, and I'm going to have a conversation with him. So
Okay, good. Thanks.
So a couple of quick questions. One of them is with regards to what Councillor Pearson was bringing up in terms of the hospital visits. I feel like obviously police have the training to actually deal with people that are in crisis in terms of mental health, and that's really the key. You've got the training. Is it possible that there might be staff at the hospital that could receive training and be prepared to actually handle people that are in crisis while they're waiting for treatment or for diagnosis? Because it feels like that would be not a matter of staff or increasing staff, but potentially reallocating with training. Is that something that's being considered?
yeah, and I can't speak for the health authority. I know that certainly in Royal Jubilee and Victoria General, they deal with this daily and in a lot of different crisis situations. And I know that the doctors and the triage nurses there are quite experienced when it comes to that. In terms of their specific training. I can't speak for that. I don't know. But we do work together, right? Because we do bring them in and we talk to the doctors every time we go in there.
Yeah, I was thinking in terms of what Councillor Pearson was suggesting was a bit of a handoff, I think, but that could only really be possible if with training. But that was one question. The other question was around school zones, and I've noticed the Langford model with the smiley faces and the speed limits. And I was wondering if we had the opportunity or funding for smiley face with speed limits, because I find that quite effective.
From my understanding, and I certainly could be wrong in this, but with with Highway 14 and going through the municipality, that's going to be the Ministry of Transportation, and they do have those signages and that sort of thing that they can install. We've worked with them before in other areas, not specifically for that, but they do have those. So that's certainly something that can be explored.
And then I have a final comment. It's a bit whimsical, but bear with me. It seems like your 24-hour coverage is going to increase crime by having more officers report statistics, which, as we know, lies, damn lies, and statistics. So we'll see how that goes. I'm just predicting the future here. Anything else at this point? Then I'd like a motion maybe to accept the report. So moved by Councillor McMath, seconded by Councillor Jeunesse. No further comments. Call the question. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Sergeant Wilcox.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, so moving on to, I believe, Royal Roads. Let me just get back here. We have a delegation from Royal Roads. So if you could come to the mic and introduce yourself, that'd be wonderful. And thank you for being here.
Okay, so my name is Monica Nagpal, and I just completed the Masters in Tourism Management at Royal Roads. So my partner Vani, she's with us online. She wasn't able to come here because she shifted to a different place, and it's not easy for her to travel right now. So I'll start. Okay, so good evening, esteemed members of the council. Today, I, Monica Nagpal and Vani Sharma, we are the privileged students who complete our Masters in Tourism Management from Royal Roads University. And we are excited to share the study that we did in our course. Before we start, we would like to acknowledge the traditional territories on which we gather today in Souk, and as well as the traditional territories where this presentation was created at Royal Roads University. We aim to identify implementable and low-cost practical methods to reduce the adverse effects of tourism while promoting while promoting sustainable tourism in Souk. We looked at Souk Port Renfrew 2008 Tourism Plan, Climate Action Plan, and other successful strategies worldwide, like carrying capacity, waste management, crowd management, community participation, etc. From a review, we came up with 4 themes that will be discussed by my partner, Vani Sharma.
So these themes included transportation, improving
Vani, your voice is not audible.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Am I audible now?
We can now hear you.
Okay, great. So I'll go ahead with transportation. So improving transportation options within Souk and to popular tourist destinations is vital for managing visitors' flows and reducing congestion, a key concern for sustainability. By investing in eco-friendly transportation infrastructure, Souk can provide visitors with environmentally conscious alternatives while preserving the natural environment. Crowd management was another theme. Effective crowd management at key tourist sites is essential for ensuring a positive visitor experience and protecting the natural environment. Research and implementations of these strategies can help Souk strike a balance between tourism growth and environmental preservation, paving the way for a more sustainable future. Monitoring systems. The absence of a robust monitoring system leaves Souk without critical data for informed decision-making regarding tourism impacts and emerging trends. Involving local businesses, ensuring the active participation for local tourism businesses is crucial as they play a central role in tourism ecosystem. tourism, and hospitality businesses need to take focused steps to align with tourism sustainability plan. By collaborating with and educating local businesses, Souk can promote sustainable tourism practices in line with its sustainability goals. Next slide, please. From our study, we came up with 4 themes for identifying solutions. These key themes can be approached using various solutions. These solutions can be seen in this slide. Next slide, please. We invested significant time in comprehensive examinations of both the challenges or pains and the positive factors contributing to success, known as gain creators. To effectively tackle sustainability concerns, our strategy involves establishing a strong connection through the implementation of carefully curated action items and initiatives. Moving on to recommendations. As a set of strategic recommendations, we advocate for the implementations of community workshops and surveys to understand insights into local sentiments. Collaboration with environmental agencies is essential for a thorough assessment of the ecological impact of tourism. We strongly recommend making substantial progress in enhancing energy efficiencies within Souk's tourism and hospitality businesses. Furthermore, we propose the establishment of crowd management plans through collaborative efforts with tourism businesses and local stakeholders. These collective approach will contribute significantly to effective crowd management strategies for the community of Souk. Next slide, please. We built a couple of roadmaps and we have tried to bring it down in this one roadmap. This roadmap includes assessment and planning, discussion and education, measurement and development, and collaborative continuous improvement. Our goal was to do this in a year. However, it may take longer than that. We would like to thank everybody and open the floor for questions.
That was a lot of information very quickly. I don't think I read all those slides quite, but that's okay. I'm going to turn this over to council again for questions. Councilor Bateman.
Yeah, thank you very much for this report, and to Ms. Scott for liaising with you and getting you to deliver this report, which I think will be of great use for district staff and our Souk Region Tourism Association. And I understand Souk Region Sustainable Tourism and Climate Action Adaptation Strategy. And so this material will help underpin that. Yeah, you've identified a number of our issues. And I could dig deeper, but I really didn't have enough time to read your report in great depth. We got it at noon today. So, but it definitely covers a lot of ground, and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no questions.
Yeah, can you back up one slide for me, please?
Which one slide?
Yep, go backwards one. Yep. Okay, this is the our suggested roadmap, which it's got some really good points in here around waste, and I want to know the linkage between tourism and single-use plastics. I want to know. I would just hear a quick explanation for that. I really like your presentation, but I want to hear an explanation of how you came up with phasing out single-use plastics, which is great. So from a tourism point of view, how do you plan to do that?
So thank you so much for that. Firstly, this is just one of the roadmap. We had a few others, and we took some part from everywhere. So by using the single use plastic, making it, I would say it will help the tourism because it will not litter. There won't be any litter. Souk to Port Renfrew, I have gone many times and have seen all the beaches. Some of the times they are very dirty, which is shocking because some people don't tend that. And single-use plastic, we can make them biodegradable so that it's not littering around. That can help the tourism, making it more beautiful to see for other people who are coming.
So I will add to that. So when we were studying this, so we looked at the climate action plan and we kind of realized that it does not fully cover the environmental effects that tourism is causing on Souk's environment. and we delved deeper to look into what tourism and hospitality businesses are doing around waste management and policies around that. So we found there was not really established policies around waste management in terms of tourism related businesses and restaurants. So that's how we built around waste generation and energy efficiencies when we went into it.
Thank you for that answer. I'm hoping to see a sign, welcome to Souk, like it's a bear friendly place. Take your plastic home with you or something like that. Yeah, like, no, I think
Yes.
that's a great message. And I just don't want to, we get a lot of information here. Sometimes I see things that I want to ask more questions about. So thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Really
Sorry
appreciate
to add to it. So we have some really nice waste management policies that we have added into the report. When you go through it, I'm pretty sure you'll like some of them. We worked really hard towards that.
Thank you.
Further questions from council? Then I have one. What would be next steps and what's the role of the district in working with Royal Roads, or will that be something that Ms. Scott will be working with you on?
So we were working on this project for 11 weeks, and now we have our next batch also who's going to be working further on what we have already done as well. Plus they will be putting in their input along with Gail. Gail is still working with Royal Roads University along with the new batch that is coming up. So yeah.
Over to Gail.
Thank you. Thank you, Bani, and thank you, Monica. That was a great presentation. It was short because I told them we only had 5 minutes and the report is very comprehensive. So I do encourage you to read it. We have had the opportunity because of this project and the results of it, that Royal Roads approached us again and said, would DOS be willing to consider a second project? And I said, well, if we can do a continuation of the first, because we haven't really finished. We've identified opportunities and strategies, but now comes the hard work of implementation. Who does it? When is it done? How are we going to fund it? That sort of thing. So I believe Eric, the professor for tourism, Royal Roads, is on Zoom. I'm not sure, but he wanted to speak to it as well. But I'll speak and also say, this wasn't just District of Souk working with Royal Roads and their students. It also involved Souk Regional Tourism Association. And specifically, we worked with one of the board members from CERTA, and it was Lindsay Percival, because Lindsay also at the same time is working on developing climate adaptation strategies for tourism from a CERTA perspective, but under a grant through Christina's community grant program. So it's all tying the pieces together. And at the end of the day, we're going to have an excellent report from various sources that we can bring together, pull out the best pieces and include in our new regional tourism plan, which we hope to be able to table in April.
Fantastic and hopefully not ambitious. Wonderful. Councilor McMath.
So annually we get reports in partnership with Royal Roads University. And so how are we tracking these projects with them with the tourism focus? And how are you directing these presentations as they come forward? So we're not doing a duplication of work that's already been done, and we're targeting pieces that we haven't seen yet.
I'm actually very involved with the projects right from the get-go. From first day all the way through, we have weekly meetings. We work with the students, work with the professors, and I do a check on I write the project proposal to Royal Roads, laying out exactly what we're looking for and what the deliverables should be. That's a lot to ask for a first-year MBA student. but we did it anyways, and these students rose to the challenge and did an excellent job. So I look at the reports, I see that it's checked off all the things that we asked it, or asked the students to investigate, global research, fine tune it and bring it down to what's doable for Sue. Budgeting, of course, finding the money to make these things happen is going to be another challenge for us. But who is stepping up to the plate now on tourism climate adaptation strategies, tourism crisis management for emergencies is Pacific Can as well as the province. So I'm in connection, regular contact with all the levels of government and the new granting programs and trying to tie all the pieces together.
So from last year's project that we received, are you still tracking targets and measurables from that project? And when those are completed, then Rural Roads presentations are directed in a new direction or a subset of the previous presentations?
Last year's project is just being presented today.
So last year's presentation.
Yeah. And we will ask each of the, I guess, classes to present to mayor and council as they finish the projects. They're usually 8 weeks. I believe one of them might be 11 weeks. And the intent is to have all of the presentations to mayor and council for information purposes, but then to take the information and work with this larger regional tourism destination planning, which is being funded by Destination BC with Sue, and incorporate that into the plan. And we'll have all of the strategies laid out so that we can present that to mayor and council as well. And that should be, like I say, the regional tourism plan is expected to be tabled at the end of March, first week of April. And I'd have to go through it and make sure we've got all the pieces we wanted and then bring it forward to mayor and council for their information. There will be a monitoring and tracking basis as far as now that we've got the plan and here's the strategies, what can we do? What's feasible? Where is the money coming from? Who are our partners? There's still so much work to be done. This is just the start of it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ms. Scott.
Sorry,
I'd just
can
like
I
to check.
finish?
I'd like to see if anybody else has any questions first. No, go for it.
Thank you. So who's responsible for tracking each of these presentations proposals? Like, does that fall to CERTA? Does it fall to yourself now?
Oh, because I'm the one that is has put in the grant asks. I'm the so I would be doing that, but I work with CERTA collaboratively on the whole thing. We've got Lindsay here, and pardon me, and she could speak to that as well. But I attend, sorry, I attend the CERTA board meetings and I bring them up to speed on all things that are happening. Sorry, I'm dying.
I think that at this point, I'd like to thank Ms. Monica Nakpal.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You've been in the hot seat waiting here for a bit, so I'd like to release you. And you're free to, of course, stay and enjoy all the festivities here. And
Comments. And I thank you very much for that line of questioning and your answers, Gail. And I just want to acknowledge in the room today, we have Professor White and Britt Santowski from, I don't know, Britt, are you still involved with Rural Roads? You teach with that guy. And over the year, in my experience, Mr. White, Professor White, you presented at least twice in these chambers with tourism reports. And there's quite a substantial pile, and each one does have its very unique flavor. So thank you for this very particular focus.
Thank you so much. Before I just leave, I just want to thank Eric, Gail, and Lindsay for this opportunity that we got, and Professor White and Britt for coming with me and cheering for me that yes, I will do the best. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're moving on to the report of the Chief Administrative Officer. Ms. Rachel Gray.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Not too much to add to the report already presented, just wanted to highlight a few items here. Coffee with Mayor and Council is coming up this Monday, 10 to 11:30 in council chambers here, encouraging everyone listening and or reading the agenda to attend. As already mentioned, Coffee with a Cop will be occurring on February 7th. With this being a new initiative, definitely encourage community participation to confirm that this is a worthwhile initiative that the community would like to carry on with. From an HR perspective, we are currently recruiting for a fire prevention life safety inspector. This is a bit of a reimagining of the Fire Smart coordinator position we had at the district that is grant funded. So with the departure of the former Fire Smart coordinator, we worked together with the fire department and our new emergency program manager, Jason Humphreys back there, and made a new job description that still covers all the Fire Smart responsibilities, as well as add some of these super important fire prevention, life safety aspect of it. And so that is currently actively recruiting right now. So we'll provide some updates as that competition progresses. Always looking for an engineering technologist. If anyone knows of anybody, love to send them our way. Final stages for recruiting for the replenishing our general support clerk auxiliary pool. We are in checking references for a building official, so stay tuned for hopefully some positive updates on that next week. Interviewing for flex firefighter, and not interviewing anymore for a manager of human resources. We actually have an accepted offer, and we have Miss Holder starting with us on February 20th. So super excited with that. This is a really good hire. She's a long serving provincial gov employee with robust HR experience. So I think she's going to fit right into the team. Is actually relocating to Souk in March, coincidentally. So it's all come together here. And yeah, I'm excited to have her join the team. The Director of Corporate Services and Planning positions are currently under review. The Director of Planning, should be posted tomorrow morning, if not tonight, available. So I've got that one up, and we'll be promoting that on the Planning Institute of BC site as well. If anyone knows of any planners or, high-level planners, Director of Planning, please encourage them to apply. And on that note, just wanted to say a special thank you to Ms. Temple, our Deputy Corporate Officer. This will be her last official council meeting with the district. And just wanted to thank her very much for, I started 5.5 years ago. She was definitely my point person and has always been a wealth of knowledge, always remains calm under pressure. And I'm really going to miss her calming at presence at these meetings. So I wish her the best on her future endeavors. And I just really thank her for everything she's done for the district over the years. She's been a valuable resource and will be sorely missed. So just wanted to wish you the best. And thank you, Sarah.
I'm going to interrupt you for a moment.
Of course.
Mostly because I wanted to publicly acknowledge Sarah as well. One of the reasons that my family and I moved to Souk was because everybody was smiling, and Sarah is one of the best smilers in Souk. She's just been amazing to be working around and to be with. Really appreciate your being here, and so sad to see you go. But hey, I get it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again, Ms. Temple. Communications, as always, please sign up for our newsletters. Lots of information. The latest, January release is just chock full of information. It's amazing when you think people think there's nothing going on, just look at our newsletter and you'll see there's a lot going on a regular basis here. Couple other items just to quickly highlight, building permits and scheduling. There was a press release, I believe, last week, and just talking about, at least from a building inspector point of view, we've gotten some great headway to get that backlog caught up. and are now kind of working on cleaning up the legacy files that have been hanging around that we just haven't had the staff capacity to follow up on that because we haven't had a response in over a year on some of these files from the applicant. So just going to now re-engage with that communication on these files and confirm what's happening with those. Yeah, go from there and then look for in future building planning quarterly reporting just to provide some more detailed analysis on the actual counts and where we're at with all of that. Public hearing changes. So with all of the provincial housing changes and announcements happening, their immediate impact to Souk will be on public hearings. So stay tuned. There's been some information already released on that. And in February, either the 12th or the final meeting of the month there, there'll actually be the first report in front of council that this scenario will apply to. So we'll all broach this together and figure this out of how this is supposed to look. So stay tuned for that coming to you guys in front of you next month. What else? Whiff and Spit is open again, opened an hour and a half early. So that was great. Huge thank you to the park staff and Victoria Contracting for being out there doing that massive cleanup. And as well as I want a special shout out for Medea Mills, our bylaw officer, who did an amazing job today down at Ed McGregor Park. An incident happened with a fire on the weekend there. And this has been a long-standing issue at that park, and staff have been trying their best to manage it. And clearly, it's got a little bit out of control. And with the fire, staff were able to mobilize, get some contractor support down there, and actually connected with a couple of the homeless residents there and initiated a massive site cleanup. I think if anyone went down there tonight, you would see 180 difference in what you saw first thing in the morning compared to what you see now. We just saw some pictures and it is completely cleaned up. So now we've got that fresh start. So staff will be working with our resources at the Homeless Coalition and looking to try and maintain this and do everything we can to stop that from getting to the level that it did there. So bit of a blessing in disguise that it happened. And a huge shout out to Miss Mills and all the staff that mobilized. Miss Temple had a huge role in coordinating a plan for that site cleanup. So just appreciate everyone's efforts on that. And it's a complicated situation, but I think staff handled it with as much empathy as we could. And hopefully the residents in that area will see some immediate improvements. That obviously some projects are going on, and happy to answer any questions. I'll leave it at that.
Turn it over to council. Any questions? Councilor Jeunesse and then Councilor Pearson.
Yeah, I just have one with respect to building permits. It says in the report that more than 40 properties, each containing 1 to 4 permits, are reading. I think it should be ready and waiting for pickup by applicants. Have the applicants been notified that they're waiting for them?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. That's good.
There's various different reasons why people don't come in and pick them up. So it's hard to predict, but yes, we definitely let them know that they're ready to be picked up. So, yeah.
Good.
Councilor Pearson.
Yes, thank you for your always robust report. There's a lot of information in there, but I would, on behalf of myself and other councillors, I'm sure I won't speak for them, thanks to our staff, because going into a situation like that is never pleasant. And it's never just a few minutes on a report that goes into, acknowledging what people done. That's a tough job. Our community I don't think there's anything that's more prevalent in our community other than traffic right now. That is the safety around what's going on. And so thank you to our staff, because it's tough. That's a really, really tough job. So on behalf of myself, I'd like to thank anybody that was involved in that. It's not easy. I have one question. The province announced that and there was a communication that we got another grant. Can you elaborate about what that grant is? And
Sure. Sorry. Yeah, that correspondence just came in end of last week there, I think middle of last week. So yeah, we're just kind of absorbing that, reading the agreement of what the money's allowed to be used for. So yeah, per the housing legislation, every municipality got a share of the $51 million the province had announced. So the district share is just over $220,000 of that funding, and it can be used for various things. Obviously, if it's OCP amendments, zoning support, potentially staff support. So we're actually just gonna review that this week and then figure out kind of where we need to go. There's a lot of information sessions being held last week, this week. The Housing Summit will be occurring in a couple of weeks here, I believe it is. So once we kind of staff get a chance to absorb all this information, we're gonna confirm what this means for Souk, confirm where we think that funding can be best utilized, and provide a report to council with some options on where we think we're going here. So stay tuned for more information.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And that was going to be my next question is, will a report coming back to council on what we're allowed to spend that on, and where should we politically be delivering that? To get the best bang for our buck, because we have a lot of regulations that are coming at us from a lot of different ways, so.
Exactly, for sure. Yes. And so definitely stay tuned for February council meeting. We'll strive to provide a fulsome update with as much as we know of what all of this means for Souk, and provide council and the community with some updated information here.
Okay, thank you.
As well as, sorry, one other thing I forgot to mention was the short-term rental changes. So that'll be kind of one that staff will be mobilizing for a little sooner than that, because we do have some pending questions that have come in. So you may see something announced or some more information shared on that before the February council meeting, once we've got a chance to understand that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further, Councilor Bateman?
Yeah, thanks for that report. And I just wanted to thank you for joining Councillor Pearson and I at the Souk Builders Association luncheon last week, where you shared this good news. And we heard back from the builders that they're very pleased with Mr. James, our auxiliary building official, and Nicole in the staff team. They're content and happy and looking for, very excited to see the Urban Systems Development Permit Approval Report next month. And that will show us the way forward. Now, there are devil in the details, as we heard, and I'll raise a little later some thoughts on how we might address those devils.
Thank you, Councilor Bateman. And I guess we don't need to accept this report, do we?
Generally, you do, yes.
We do. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to accept our CEO's report. Moved by Councilor McMath, seconded by Councilor Pearson. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, that's passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so at this point, I would just like to ask, how many minutes do we have on public question and comment? I always forget. You're going to be in charge of that?
Yes, so each speaker will have 2 minutes. The procedure bylaw allows for a total of 10 minutes unless extended by a majority of council. So if you hear from more than 5 at 2 minutes each, you can agree to extend it.
All right. Further to that, I know that there's actually a little bit of a spiel that our mayor reads with regards to public hearings, but there's nothing particular with this, is there? Just confirming, just in case. All right. So we're now at item number 7, public question and comments. So if anybody would like to step up to the mic, please give your name and your area that you're from. Don't have to provide your address, just where you're from, generally speaking. Municipality, that's the word. Welcome. I haven't seen you in a while.
Oh, didn't work out. Okay, I have a couple questions. One on page 19.
Could you provide your name and
What do you need?
for
My name?
for everybody else who doesn't know your name?
Okay, Ellen Lewis. Yeah, I forgot. I thought you weren't supposed to say anything.
No,
I'm
you're-
identified now. Okay.
Identify yourself and where
Okay.
you're from.
On page 19, in the report from the corporate officer about the public hearing changes, a zoning bylaw amendment aligns with official community plan. Revised legislation specifies that public hearings cannot be held when the zoning bylaw aligns with, you know what it says, the zoning bylaw amendment is intended to facilitate residential development, and at least half of all the structures in the development are designated for housing. But it doesn't say what type of housing. So the zoning may allow for housing, but if somebody wants to put up a 6-story building next to you, you don't have an opportunity to speak to it. I think that's really bad idea. that the public isn't allowed to speak. And the next bullet there, it says that the province is making these changes, but the intent is to encourage public engagement earlier in the planning and development phase of projects. But 2 councils ago, I believe that was removed. You removed that opportunity, so we weren't allowed to speak to anything before it came to public hearing. So I guess there's going to have to be some changes made, and that and if it does, and even if there's no public hearings, staff is still allowed to go ahead and do a lot of things that we don't have any say over, basically, or council. Just for information. Another issue was of the Lions property and their application. Now, was on the last OCP, very specifically, that property was to be used for community space, a senior center, and that type. That's what that space was supposed to be. That was our discussion, yet it says park now, and I don't know how it became park. Time's up. Too bad. Yeah. Because you made me say my name.
I'll do that. I'll do that. So if you'll state your name and municipality.
It's William Wallace from downtown Souk, and I'm here to speak on item 12.3. The rezoning of the park at 2008 Murray Road to commercial zoning is one way for the Lions Club to be relieved of its responsibility for the public park. In 1964, I would expect that Lions' purpose for purchasing it was as a public green space for all residents, not as an investment. I'm opposed to the council making procedural exemptions for the Lions Club when rezoning the property for the following reasons. The park first became a public use park in 1964, my sign says there, and has remained open to the public use as a park ever since. For many, it is historical and has nostalgic significance. It is the oldest park in downtown center. The park is now a walkable, usable neighborhood park and a green space in our town center. Given the current density growth of over 500 plus families that will be living in the town core, they deserve this park to remain public into the future. In comparison, Sun River has 715 homes and 35 hectares of public parks. The downtown core has 0.17 hectare of easily accessible public parkland, and that's Murray Park. The option is still open for council to purchase the park and have it remain in public hands for another 60 years as our community grows. The Lions Club have let us know that they have other priorities. I feel that the Lions have an obligation to help maintain the park for their original purpose when purchased, as a green public space to benefit all Souk residents. I oppose the commercial rezoning and sale of this old, historic, public accessible park. Thank you.
This man is a pro. Would someone else like to step up?
My name is Helen. I live in downtown Souk. I'd like to speak to agenda item 12.3, the letter received from the Souk Lions regarding the rezoning application for the park on Murray Road. The Lions are asking for the rezoning to move forward without them having to complete all the studies and requirements that are standard due diligence to protect and fully inform both the applicant residents and the municipality. I know that every property owner has the right to request whatever they want, and it is your difficult job on council to listen patiently and then make a decision that's best for the community. In this case, I would say, please take your time. There's a lot more listening that needs to happen. I came here tonight to remind you that this is not a simple rezoning application. The Lions are asking to commercially rezone the only zone park and protected green space in the town core. As a result of this land being a park, the rezoning request first requires an official community plan amendment. What that means is that our official community plan does not support this rezoning. Both the OCP and the Parks and Trails Master Plan clearly recognize this park as a valuable and much-needed green space in our rapidly densifying town center. With this OCP amendment comes the requirement for a public hearing. Both council and the public should have the full zoning application with all the completed due diligence to consider. There should be no perceived special fast-track favors in cases like this. If you consider this application to remove a long-standing community park, or as you consider this application, I ask you to show respect to the current residents and the 400+ new families that will be living in apartments within a 5-minute walk of this park. Take your time and insist on the full rezoning requirements to be completed before the rezoning application moves forward. There are win-win possibilities here for everyone. Please don't take shortcuts.
We are working with pros tonight.
1 second.
Well done.
I'd like to, let me just rewind. Am I on? Great. My name is Veronica Pemberton. I live in Souk. I'm going to speak to the Royal Roads report. And so I have a great amount of respect for all of you. And I want to say how much I respect the work that went into this report by the young master's students. I know this was hard work and it was commissioned, and I hope they all succeed with it. However, they would not be expected to take into account the impact of these recommendations on the business community of Souk. So all through our plans, we say we want a flourishing, vibrant community. There is no flourishing, vibrant community unless business succeeds. And every restriction we put on them actually restricts the businesses. And the recommendations, and I encourage you all to read them well, are nothing short of authoritarian and dictatorial. So much overreach. They're young people. They don't understand the economy, but you are in place to support the businesses and to support this. I will say to you that Canada's GDP, per capita GDP is falling. We are getting poorer. Canadians are getting poorer. The OECD predicts that Canada will have the worst economic performance of their 39 countries. That's worse than Bulgaria, worse than Greece, for the next 40 years. We are getting poorer. People are losing their homes and unemployment will be going up soon. We're actually in what they call a technical recession. The end of the quarter will make it a full-born recession. My property values fell 11%, but thankfully on the assessment, it said my taxes wouldn't fall. So I don't hear from this council a stand to restrict spending. The only area of our economy that's growing is government spending. Everything else is collapsing. And I would like this council to stand for finances and freeze spending. And I'll end there.
Further comments? Please step up. Don't be intimidated. We've had some pros, but go for it. There we go.
I'm Rob Martin. I live in downtown Souk. Here to speak to agenda item 12.3. Just want to say a couple of brief things, probably less than my 2 minutes. First of all, I ask that you not fast track the the wish to rezone the park and to exempt any parts of the process because of the reasons that Helen gave. It requires an OCP amendment, and it's a very serious matter that to take park space and rezone it for commercial use. It's a huge step to take. Just as a little reference of news items from around the country, and actually some of them quite close by. January 18th, Victoria City purchases future downtown park. January 31st, 2022, City of Burlington, Ontario purchases Lions Club Park property to keep it a park. December 12th, 2023, Town of Sydney establishes new park to support growing community. And in every one of these things, they all cite increasing density in their town centers And that is the reason they need more parks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any first-time speakers? I will now call for second-time speakers.
Just a reminder, you're approaching the 10 minutes, so you may want to make a recommend or a motion to extend.
Okay. Moved and seconded by Councillor Bateman and Pearson. All in favor? Okay.
Okay, good. This report from the Royal Roads, it's great, but having been almost 50 years in the service of tourism, I find it's totally undoable, not doable. It's not doable. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. It's just too costly. It's not going to work. So, I mean, even the reference to Venice, they changed how many people can come in. They changed how many ships can come in there because of the buildings and the height. They're in the water. You know, they're built in water. And the cruise ships, when they come in, there's too many cruise ships. It raises the height of the water. So, I mean, you have to understand why these things are done. But we don't have cruise ships coming in. And I also want to go back to the Lions property. That's private property. It's not a park. It's private property. Private property can't be a park unless the private owners have made it a park. So I would urge you to look at this opportunity. I know Councillor Lejeunesse, you were on the OCP when we discussed that property, and that property was specific. We looked at that property to be developed in the downtown area. We have parks in the downtown. We have McGregor Park and we have the park along the waterway. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Okay, if seeing no one else. Yes, well, we stopped it. We don't have to call another. No, okay.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Just to complete on the tourist recommendations, it's to restrict tourism. I don't have the document in front of me, but all about how we can measure them and how we're going to count them and how we're going to have them not go here and have quotas and all of this. And we should be looking at how to increase tourism. And all of it is about our priorities. Even to work on this and go through it takes staff time. And I really, really ask this council to be cost effective. We're going into economic difficulties and we want to, I was reading how building permits are not being issued quickly enough. This is the problem, all the problems in organizations. We need to prioritize our projects. And right now, Sooke could fall off the map and it's not going to be a speck of difference in climate change, not a speck in the world. In fact, you may have heard that a man has been convicted of starting 14 fires in Quebec this summer. Another man for starting the largest fire in Nova Scotia history has now been charged or convicted. We know that we're not setting our priorities correctly. And that's of great concern to me. If we're deeply committed to climate change, and I've worked in development, what we would do is get our natural gas to the third world as quickly as possible so they can stop burning coal and dung. Here in Sooke, we need to be working for the benefit of the people of Sooke. And I think we've lost that commitment. And this should not be a priority, doing any work to further restrict tourists coming into this. Our tourist industry across Canada is still suffering from COVID. So that would be my final thing. Thank you for the second chance.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think we're going to move on to item number 12. Nope, not 12. What am I thinking? Where am I? Number 8, consent agenda. So that's correspondence. And do I have someone to move the correspondence?
Yeah, I'll move.
Looking for a seconder now? There we go. So moved by Councillor Bateman, second by Councillor Pearson, and comments or?
Yeah, I would like to remove one item from the correspondence. That's item 19J.
19J, so that's
And that
request to
is-
appear as a delegation,
Yeah,
alley
alley
pickets.
pickets for discussion, either now, if staff have any comments, or
It's
2
not-
weeks from now.
It's not in the agenda, so
Yeah.
no. Thank you very much for that. So are we ready to move the correspondence now? Okay, so all in favor of moving the correspondence minus that one item? Good, that's unanimous. And moving on to reports. Item 9.1, SUK 2030 Climate Action Plan. 2023 Implementation Update. So I assume I'm waiting for a report from staff?
Just bear with me one moment. There we go. There we go.
While we've cleared the room, or while we're busy clearing the room, I'm going to suggest a 5-minute break for people to go to the washroom. We'll reconvene at 8:30. It's almost 8:30. I'd like to reconvene. Okay, so I think we're now on to item, as I stated previously, 9.1, SUC 2030 Climate Action Plan 2023 Implementation Update, which I think is Ms. Moog.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so
So-
much.
Thank you. So council supported the 2023 project list on March 17th, 2023. Action items were carefully selected to maximize $135,000 provincial contribution of funds and optimize district resources, which included a $17,000 monetary contribution and expanding the capacity of our human resources through greater collaboration with the CRD Climate Action Team. An organizational shift to climate action, incorporating the work into all service areas and including the social, economic, and environmental co-benefit model into how we operate. Hiring our manager of community planning. And launching a climate action seed funding program to help mobilize community partners and empower a local response and connection with Sooke residents. In short, the project list included a consolidation of 20 action items set to build a foundation for plan implementation. I'm pleased to share that in the 8 months since commencing this work, we've achieved 95% mobilization on the identified initiatives. A report on corporate building emissions being delayed due to availability of resources is the one outstanding item. Often climate action can be a polarizing topic, but it doesn't have to be. I believe that all of us in this room know that reality anecdotally, but further evidence of this reality is seen in the 2024 budget What We Heard report, where the top priorities expressed were the ability to safely walk or bike around town, health and wellness, and environmental protection. And then on the other end, closer to the bottom of our priority list, were climate action and reducing GHG emissions. I mention this to recognize Council's decision on March 17th in determining our Made in Sooke approach to delivering on climate action, as I think it's particularly responsive to the community that you are serving. With that introduction, I will now highlight some of the work completed from the Climate Action Funds this year. Again, the district's portion being a $17,000 monetary commitment and considerations of what's next. One focus for this year was greater collaboration with the Capital Regional District Climate Action Team. Some highlights from this aspect of our work included the release of comprehensive GHG inventories, providing valuable insights to inform the carbon footprint of both regional and local governments, increased promotion of the Home Energy Navigator program, empowering residents to make informed choices for energy efficiency, collaboration with local schools through the Cool It, a climate leadership program aimed at inspiring and educating the next generation, transportation and fleet workshops complemented by communications material development, and carbon climate budgeting workshops to provide a platform to explore budgeting strategies for carbon and climate initiatives. Specific to the Cool It program, a grade 4 and 5 class from Sooke Elementary with 22 students participated. This class completed 166 actions and was the only class in all of the West Shore with a 100% return rate for their participatory program cards. I believe that this speaks to the interest and level of engagement on this topic in our community. By comparison, other classes saw a return rate between 38 and 73%. So go Sooke Elementary. We saw fruitful engagement with community groups such as the Edward Milne Community School Garden Program through the district's Community Climate Action Seed Funding. The seed funding program yielded a culmination that includes engaging over 2,000 people, connecting with over 50 persons directly involved in organizing and supporting activities. They are our community climate champions, hosting of more than 15 community-based events, including an apple pressing and tasting event, which is pictured here. And also specific to the Edward Milne Community Garden, they harvested over $1,000 worth of food for students. Sorry, bear with me. 606 Water Group organized a series of 17 impactful water sustainability education pop-ups at various locations. Their efforts reflect a remarkable dedication to spreading awareness and knowledge about water sustainability across diverse community settings and events. The district provided support for the Sooke Country Market in the form of a shipping container to help build volunteer capacity and support market expansion. A study conducted this summer by the BC Farmers Market Association showed that the cumulative efforts in supporting the market yielded a return to our local economy of more than $660,000. The Friends of Souk Park Society, with the receipt of a Souk Community Climate Action Grant in collaboration with district staff, set a path to enhance 4 parks through tree planting and environmental beautification, strive to connect at least 1 park steward with each selected park, and host at least 1 free-to-attend community event at each location. The first park selected was Pine Ridge Park, which is now home to 2 new trees, considerably less invasive species in their fire smart activities, and was the location of 2 community events, the Spooky Pumpkin Walk and a Remembrance Day Story Walk. Over 200 people attended the pumpkin walk, and all pumpkins collected were donated to a local farm for animal food. For the Story Walk, 150 people participated, and children attending made cards for military personnel at sea. The second park selected was John Phillips Memorial Park, which is now home to 9 additional trees along the Stickleback Urban Trail, and was the location of the Souk Solstice Walk. The Solstice Walk was enjoyed by more than 200 people who walked with lanterns and gathered for hot chocolate while enjoying the lights along the path, and of course, great company too. 39 volunteers assisted with these events and contributed 226 hours towards making the events possible. Also coming up on January 26th is another Story Walk, this one at John Phillips Memorial Park, and it will be from 1 to 3:30 p.m. Early mobilization to inform how future community gardens may emerge for Souk also took place over the last 8 months. Draft site assessment criteria has been developed, and prospective sites are being reviewed for council's future council consideration. Another emerging initiative undertaken this year is the Souk Region Tourism Association Climate Action Plan, as you heard about earlier tonight. When asked, how do you feel this project is benefiting the community so far? The authors shared that it's an incredible stepping stone that will create the foundation for future projects in the tourism industry centered in Souk. So this team will continue to work alongside Gail to progress this work. With the support of the District of Souk Community Climate Action Seed Funding, Zero Waste Souk, a part of Transition Souk, expanded their offerings to include a school supply swap, a craft and fabric swaps, a holiday decoration swap, and coming up on January 28th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Souk Library, a yarn swap. Another highlight from the year was the launch of a youth education programs in partnership with local schools. We had more than 200 students participate with support from their teachers and district park staff. Their efforts focused on the removal of invasive species and fire smart stewardship in the Billings Spit neighborhood. Speaking of education, another significant milestone.
I'd like to ask the same. Excuse me, could we have? Sorry, it's very distracting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Speaking of education, another significant milestone this year was a survey led by the Fireweed Learning Commons, who are using their research to develop community programming for Souk. They are finding underlying values across the spectrum of climate action perspectives to build cohesion and help the community best respond to the climate emergency. Considerations for their upcoming program offerings are captured on this slide and include what in the world is going on, building a higher quality of life for you in Souk, and the nuts and bolts of climate action acts of hope. Please note that these programs, when launched, will be a pilot with appropriate adaptations made to most effectively connect with our residents. Another key initiative last year was the launch of an active school routes program with Poirier Elementary. Signs have been installed in key locations on sidewalks and trail corridors to communicate routes. Additionally, the PAC and school administration are promoting the program. I attended the welcome night as a part of the launch of the program in the fall, which was met with overwhelming positivity. As my commute is on an active school route, I've spoken with many families using the Stop on Church. Parents using this meeting spot have shared that it saves them about 15 minutes in the morning, which is quite significant. So we'll be surveying more families to receive more feedback and hopefully some more testimonials as we continue to encourage alternative transportation where the infrastructure is available. Another important element of Souk's Climate Action Plan is how we relate and fostering the connection residents have with the natural environment. In that capacity, we joined the BC Bird Trail, which profiles Souk as a birdwatching destination and celebrates some of our local wildlife. While still in the relatively early days, as we launched on the platform on November 3rd, content analysis from the BC Bird Trail shows Souk as a top 10 most frequently visited trail thus far. Another highlight from 2023 was the expansion of our broom busting program. We ran a complimentary broom drop-off for Souk residents for 1 month versus 2 weeks the year prior, and hosted several more community cleanups in partnership with Souk broom busters and local schools. The efforts resulted in the removal of 300 cubic meters or approximately 20 dump trucks worth of broom. Truly commendable effort in the community in preserving the local environment and contributing to our Fire Smart efforts. Corporately and community-wide, our single biggest contributor to emissions is transportation. A key learning over the last 8 months is how willing people are to embrace alternative modes of transportation. However, current infrastructure provides a significant barrier. Little River Crossing will reimagine pedestrian connectivity for Souk, and I believe has the potential to be instrumental in longer-term mobility shift, making a lasting impact to reduce future emissions. The enthusiasm for this project with families in our community, given the connectivity to schools and Raven Ridge Park, is truly remarkable. In addition, working with developers to help realize sidewalks as proposals come forward provides another mechanism for us to respond to this community need. With the vehicle mode shifts and supports for community members interested in electric vehicles, the district is currently awaiting status of a grant application submitted in partnership with the CRD, which will result in 8 additional public EV charging stations for our community. Listening to residents and understanding their barriers to various forms of transportation mode shift, specific to our emission reduction targets, has me turning my attention to corporate tactics and the mobilization of a green fleet. To support informed decision-making in this area, we have engaged a master's student from Royal Roads University School of Environment who's assessing alternative municipal vehicles based on carbon emission projections within the current fleet life cycle. We expect to have this data by the summer and anticipate using it to inform asset replacement of corporate vehicles during their natural life cycle. The report is set to outline both emission and cost projections. Notably, most recent data reliably reports life cycle costs of fleet vehicles are lower for electric than combustion engines units, given current fuel prices and maintenance considerations. And of course, an exception to this is fire trucks. So what's next? That's a snapshot of some of the strides we've been making with Souk's climate action plan. Again, with a $17,000 monetary investment from the district and an organizational approach to shifting our climate action work to how we operate alongside mobilizing community partners. There are several more milestones on the immediate horizon. We are awaiting funding status for several applications. Several crosswalk enhancements are coming at 5 locations. Again, those include a new crosswalk with flashing lights on Phillips Road by Sea Park at the front entrance. Similarly, at the back entrance of Sea Park, flashing lights added to Phillips Road crosswalk. Flashing lights on Grant Road by French Road. Flashing lights added to the church crosswalk on the Stickleback Urban Trail, and also flashing lights at the Otter Point at Road Night crosswalk. Submission for additional ICBC road safety funding to assist with further crosswalk improvements is also on the immediate horizon. Cool It will be expanded to more local schools in Souk with the CRD this year. Climate action administrative transition from the communications coordinator to the manager of community planning will take shape this year, and then identification of service levels through the 2024 budget deliberations. I'm almost done. So to inform that last point, I'd like to offer the following key learnings specific to financial priorities for the year ahead. In short, this reflects continuing to build on the foundation established this year while being cognizant of the financial pressures facing us and our residents. Underpinning the district's climate action plan is enhancing the quality of life for everyone in our community. This is our focus. It's a story that we are writing, and I know everybody can get behind it. With that, I'll once again emphasize all of these achievements, and I actually didn't capture everything, was done with $17,000 of a municipal investment. Before leaving you with the recommendation to receive this report for information, I'll remind everyone that they can follow the implementation of the plan with ongoing updates in real time on our Let's Talk page. And you can see as the screen is scrolling there, the amount of milestones that we achieved throughout the year. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mogg. Any questions from council? I saw it. Council McMath, Council Bateman after.
Thank you so much. That is wonderful. And I think what I like most about it is the connection within the community. That's been a really big missing piece. So that is really lovely. I would really like to start seeing pieces because Souk's #1 contribution is vehicles on the road. And I appreciate the working within the community, but something that ties in with economic development where we have commercial industrial built out here, that in the long term, we'll get those vehicles that are traveling outside of Souk and making Souk a bedroom community, keep those cars here. So I'd really like to see a pairing of those two pieces.
One comment to that. So another item that we've mobilized on this year that isn't included, that is the foundation to that work, is building a quality of life and economic prosperity report. So it'll be a living dashboard with some of that data to help in the recruitment of those businesses. So that's a piece that hopefully within 6 months we'll have it live as an anchoring to those conversations as our economic development officer hopefully recruits and champions new businesses coming to Souk.
Council Bateman.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this report and all your work over the last 9 months on this, to you and all staff, in fact, but following the low carbon resilience co-benefits model, whole of organization, climate action, and with the goal here of building a better community, as was stated earlier. This is how we're moving forward through this narrative at the heart of the Souk 2030 climate plan. So the hard question is, okay, there was $152,000 in funding. Did you spend all of that? And if not, how is it going to be worked into future?
So as of right now, there is 90,000 that's not unspent. That's a carryover to next year, specific to those crosswalk projects. We just ran into a few delays in mobilizing on them, and then it's been a little cold recently, and other weather effects with the crews. So unfortunately, that got delayed. The intent was for it to be a 2023 completion, but we just ran into those delays. But it will be complete by March this year. So those funds would be carried over to finish off that project.
Right.
Yeah.
Critical for our active transportation vision. So this was year 1 of 3 years of guaranteed funding from the province, to which we need to add a 17,000 per year. How do you see the program changing? We'll maybe wait and see at budget time, or can you give us a preview?
From a financial perspective, I'm just going to go back. Sorry. From a financial perspective, I don't see it necessarily shifting. Just given the current economic realities we're facing, I think it's realistic to retain that $17,000 contribution, continuing to build on just the momentum that we've gained, the traction that we've gained this year, with some key capacity levers. So where we can capitalize on, for example, the sidewalk infrastructure and or the crosswalk infrastructure, and making updates to some of the paint that's used that buys us 3 years as opposed to 1. I think that's probably we're going to get some of the best bang for our buck on these community-based initiatives. I think there's another conversation, probably not for 2024, on other maybe policy direction that council might wish to provide. But specific to the funding strategies, the walking infrastructure is a key component. Anchoring to Councillor McMath's earlier point on hopefully lessening us being a bedroom community, and then continuing with grants on a twofold process. One, leveraging additional grants. So usually we have to make a small contribution to those. So saving some funds with that, perhaps consideration for some grant writing support, and then continuing with the seed funding program, because we really mobilized a lot of champions in the community successfully. So, but making sure we're doing that sustainably, knowing that there's a cutoff of funds. So.
Thank you. So as you said, the community grant seed funding has been particularly successful. Do you see more money going into that with next June, or was it sufficient?
If anything, I would potentially suggest less.
Less.
Just because the whole mechanism of that is a seed funding program where we're really working with these agencies to build their capacity. So we don't want them reliant on this funding model. So we need to see that shift. So we don't want to, teach them, feed a man a fish or you feed them for a day or, teach. So we want to make sure that they're not their success of their program isn't reliant on that fund. So we need to have some capacity building. And I think the financial model that we use alongside those organizations is a tool to build that. And I've had some conversations with a few of the groups that are looking to reapply, and they understand that that's coming forward. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Pearson, and then Councillor Nash. Yeah, and then Councillor Ash.
Thank you for the in-depth, robust report. Lots and lots of things in there. And what I like about it is a lot of the things in here are being lumped into climate action plan, and there's some common sense things. Like, I mean, we should be better at walking and we should be better at doing things. My question specifically to you is linkages between this climate action plan and you in our organization. How are you permeating and connecting those to other departments, i.e. planning, i.e. engineering, and other levels of government? So I'm loading the question up with a lot of stuff because planning, building the infrastructure or engineering needs to build that infrastructure in the ground so that we can get more secondary businesses, bigger businesses, attract that investment in our community. But also, if we're continuing to grow, which I don't see any stop in that, our infrastructure, which is not owned by us, which is the province, where are those linkages? So I've kind of framed that up so that hopefully you can tell me a good answer.
I mean, there's many different pieces to it, but I was chuckling as you were asking. It's the big component of the last year has been making this work it's top of mind. Facilities went and installed a bike rack at the front of Municipal. Nobody told them to do that, but they did that because it would make it more accessible for the community if you were biking to the hall. Finance shifted off, expedited their e-transfers and changed some of their processing. So, and the thought process behind some of that was, hey, not only there's efficiencies there, but then there's less vehicle trips coming to the hall. Again, they did that innately because there's a behavioral shift on the horizon. And every project that Mr. Carter is bringing forward, the main projects include the pedestrian corridors and infrastructure. I know I shared some photos and some excitement with the Church Road roundabout. Everybody needs to go down there and experience this. Like, it's a transformative experience. So we're really building it in. Again, it's foundational to how we're doing as far as our corporate culture, that these are just fundamental pieces that we think of. It's just top of mind. It's just how we're doing business. And that was one component of your question, and I got lost on a few of the others.
Other government agencies, MOTI.
That's a good question. I've sent them a few thoughts and I'm waiting on a response back. So it might be too premature for me to respond, but a couple other agencies, I'd say BC Transit's another one. So I'll answer BC Transit first and then, or share some data on BC Transit. So BC Transit ridership, like if we think generally, anecdotally, we're looking at the traffic. I hear it all the time from people. There are single occupancy vehicles often. I know that there's different barriers. So is carpooling an option? Maybe MOTI, a signal of a prompt is there's carpooling signage and other messaging that can be installed on the highway. That won't work for everybody. Maybe it works for a handful of people, but we're starting somewhere. Ridership with BC Transit, I'm having more regular dialogue with them to understand what the uptake is and where there might be some promotion or other education strategies to remove barriers. They expanded their peak time routes, although they're single-decker buses. They expanded their peak time routes and capacity by 40%. Our ridership has gone up by 26%. So there's still more room to grow. So I think that that's a bit of a good news stat from BC Transit. We need to receive more of that and understand and hear the stories as to why transit's working for them. In our listening campaign that informed the climate action plan, we heard from people, hey, it's my social. There's coffee clubs that ride the bus together. hey, that's kind of cool. They're like, this is my social opportunity. So more of those conversations, because each moment in through those agency partners can help get one car off the road. And there is a cumulative effect if we all do a little. So there's some conversations, not necessarily super direct with Modi, but I don't know if Jeff has.
Yeah, I can add to it. We work continuously, like with Modi and BC Transit, with all the design work we're doing in any of our corridor projects. I have complete dialogue with BC Transit. They're given the opportunity to look at where they want to implement new stops on any of our corridors, so we can include that in the design. Constantly seeking funding contributions from them as well. Worked on basically a $20,000 contribution that we obtained last year with BC Transit. We're just engaging the preliminary design on the Wadhams Transit Exchange to give more sort of accessibility to a major center for bus stops. With Modi, it's very similar to most organizations. Everyone's busy right now. No one has resources, but proactively working with them, development is happening in Sooke. They don't have the capacity to take on some of the design projects. So I've been working with the leads and area managers at Modi to seek funding. We're looking at a funding contribution for 2023 that's carrying over for $40,000. And I'm going after an additional contribution. I'm managing the design project of the entire highway from Church to the bridge. A lot of work going on in that corridor, but we want to look at trying to get that expedited. So it's a shelf ready project. So then I can bug MOTI to fund it. But we're constantly working with them and our partners. They've been great to work with, and they are coming up to the table with contributions if they can't get resources. So it's been really successful over the last year.
Thank you both very much.
Councilor Ganes?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to see the expanding multimodal transportation network going in everywhere, especially since I got my e-scooter that's parked behind me here, because finding all the pinch points around town, and there's some places where it's really unsafe to be out of a car. But the question that I have is a few years ago, when not long after I was first elected to council, there was talk of a couple of EV charging stations that we had in storage. Have those been commissioned, or are they still in storage?
Through your worship, the Councilor Lajeunesse, there is, with the development going in across the street, we put in as an additional requirement when they drop the power into the parking lot to also drop a junction box at the back of the municipal hall parking lot. So we're looking at, in the base parking lot that they're donating to us, the EV chargers that we have on hand will be going there. And then through the funding and grant program working on with CRD, might have the opportunity to get one funded for the municipal hall where we've already funded it for.
Good, thanks.
One more, and I'm just curious about this transition from, a main focus for you, Christina, over to Mr. Riley, our manager of community planning. I'd like to give you an opportunity to just share some of your thoughts on this hopefully new normal in how districts do their business.
Yeah, you'll have to forgive me. I'm still getting caught up to speed on this, but yeah, I'll be talking with Christina about getting briefed on the implementation measures and whatnot and moving this to the next stages. So I don't really have much to say, to be honest, at this point. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. I'd just like to make a quick comment. I think it's perfect that what's happening here is that the LCR lens is actually being used. Sorry, the low carbon resilience lens is now being implemented in all departments at all levels of the organization, because realistically, a vision of a better community and a low carbon community is really about better housing, transportation, and local economic development. And most people don't associate those things with climate work. It's all about trees and other stuff. But really what we need are more jobs locally, better trails locally, better transportation locally, and more affordable housing locally. And that's absolutely in our wheelhouse. And I'm really pleased that that a lot of the good work is happening behind the scenes where it should be happening. And appreciate the work of staff and what you're doing. because that's what needs to be happening. I'm actually sad that some of the people that were so interested in parks aren't here to hear that, because often there's a lack of enthusiasm and optimism about the work that's happening, but it is happening. And I'm just sad they're not here to hear it. I also wanted to note that within the report that we received, we also have work on the remote work options and the co-working hubs, which wasn't mentioned, but it's also obviously pertinent to what Councilor McMath was talking about, which is keeping some jobs local and getting people off the roads. And I think the most interesting thing for me was find out that Souk is for the birds. That was news. And I don't know if I agree, but that's okay. So thank you very much. Do we want to accept that report? Yes, I think we're looking for someone to move the council receive this report for information. Moved by Councilor Bateman, seconded by Councilor Lajeunesse. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you, Ms. Mogg. Okay, 9.2, Community Emergency Preparedness Fund ESS Grant. Chief?
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Council. Thanks for the opportunity to be here and present on this opportunity for grant funding. So we're really looking for a resolution for you to support our grant application. In your package tonight, hopefully you've had time to look at the three documents that were there. One of them is the signed grant application. The other one is the program guide, which would provide you with information as to what the parameters around this guide or this grant were, sorry. And the other one is a brief budget or financial summary form that we've included for information as well. So this grant is for emergency support services. Basically, it's to try and bring us up to modern times with reporting and standardizing documents and such in the event that we needed to staff or house people in a reception center. So we're moving away from the standardized paper forms towards more computer or software based, which will hopefully allow us to do things a little bit more orderly and take less time to do such a thing. So the province's goal of modernization is focused on the evacuee registration and assistance tool. It's called the ERA tool or ERA tool. Basically, it's an online records management system. The funding from this stream will be utilized to purchase computer systems, which will allow ESS personnel the ability to assess ERA software and increase the rate in which evacuees may be processed. By supporting this funding stream, Souk's ability to obtain suppliers pre-event and process evacuees during an event is enhanced and will allow us to better manage the flow and registration of people in these difficult times. So basically, the recommendation speaks to the council endorse a funding application to UBCM's Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, Emergency Support Services Training and Support Stream for the sum of $20,705 to support the District of Souk's Emergency Support Services Evacuation Registration Assistance Modernization Project, and that council authorized staff to provide overall grant management in order to receive this funding. That's it for my report. I have brought with me tonight Emergency Program Manager Jason Humphreys, who has worked on this grant alongside of myself. So if there's any questions, either Jason or myself would be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'll turn it over to council. Any questions? Seeing no questions for council, I'll ask one myself. I was curious, I noticed that there's 4 iPads in there, and it seems like you're not just going to use 4 iPads for this. It's probably, I assume that there's a software component. Is it not just simply an app that they would, I mean, it feels like this is the age where you would just download an app and start doing this with any machine that you happen to have available. Is that not the case, or?
Great question. So I'm in the infancy of learning about the ERA tool, but so it's a software tool promoted by the province. And it's the idea of the tool is to really work with the client, someone who is needing evacuation services. So an app might not work on just a small device. So you're showing them what they need to use, and it's like an hour-long process. So it's be an iPad or a computer itself. So it's really interactive between 2 parties. So it's hard to do that with just a phone. Will that answer your question for that?
More or less. I guess what I'm hearing is that there'll be software available for any number of iPads that we need to actually deploy for this purpose.
Yeah, it's a free provincial program. So the training is done already. So the ESS group has the training, and we're just waiting for the equipment to help launch it to this piece. And you can download, you can pre-register on yourself. But for those that might not be used to that type of program or even used to a smartphone, studies have shown and actually just proven through the interior fires that help was needed with the program, but it is still to expedite the process.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Okay. So we're looking for council to endorse funding application to BCM's Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, Emergency Support Services, Training and Support Stream for $20,705 to support the District of Sauk's Emergency Support Services Evacuee Registration Assistance Modernization Project. And that council authorize staff to provide overall grant management in order to receive this funding. Moved by Councilor Jeunesse, seconded by Councilor Pearson. Any further questions? Seeing none. Oh.
Yeah, just a quick comment and thank you for this and great to see another UBCM and a long line of them, grant being sought by the district and undoubtedly secured. Good luck with that. I just wanted to mention that I was sitting with Ken Levert from Sauk Emergency Sports Services at the Firefighters Gala. And our conversation revolved around how it might be great for council to receive at a committee of the whole an emergency 101 kind of presentation. So he was keen to do that. And I don't know if I need to make a notice of motion to get that happening or whether you can take note of that. Yeah.
Great comment. It's something that I've been working with Jason on as we speak. We realize that we're sort of in the infancy of reinventing our emergency management program. And one of the things is to sit with you folks in probably a committee of the whole meeting and do just exactly what you've suggested. So we're close to having that ready to go. And as soon as we do, obviously we'll put it on an agenda for a committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you. So I'll call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, so moving on to 9.3, travel and expense policy update.
Thank you. Just a housekeeping item for this. As council may recall, for many of our policies, we're trying to take actual dollar values out of the policies and put them in addendums or attachments, so that every time a dollar amount changes, you don't have to go and update the policy or bylaw. So in reviewing the travel and expense policy, it was pointed out that the meal per diem is an amount identified in there specifically versus compared to the mileage claim, which is the CRA mileage rate on an annual basis. That number just gets updated based on that. So this is just a request from staff, a recommendation to amend the policy to tie the meal allowance per diems to the CRA's rate, which they update on an annual basis. I'm happy to answer any further questions.
Any questions from council? Seeing none, looking for someone to move. Motion. Moved by Councilor Pearson, seconded by Councilor Jeunesse. All in favor? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Okay, moving on to section 10 bylaws. 10.1 bylaw number 893-698, zoning amendment bylaw 2023. Zoning amendment bylaw third reading. Okay, so who do we have on that?
This one's actually just for adoption, so there's no presentation for the next two unless there's questions.
Okay, moved by Councilor Bateman, seconded by Councilor Pearson. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. No, that's not going up. All those in favor? I'll try next time. 10.2, bylaw number 899-392-05, animal regulation and impounding amendment bylaw 2024. So the council adopt the bylaw cited as bylaw number 899-392-05, animal regulation and impounding amendment bylaw 2024. Moved by Councilor Bateman. Second by Councilor McMath. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. 10.3, bylaw number 901, revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw 2024. The council gives first, second, and third reading to the bylaw cited as revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw number 901, 2024. Moved by Counselor Pearson, seconded by Counselor Jeunesse. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. On to new business. Notice of motion from Counselor Pearson, please.
I think maybe our CAO could give me an update. Have we scheduled this? But based on my meeting last week at Wanafika Water. Based on my meeting last week at Wanafika Water Commission, there was discussion that the CRD board or CRD executive was going around council to council, making presentations. And I mentioned, well, how come you haven't done Souk yet? They said, well, we've already met with your staff, but we'd be happy to come out and meet with council. So I brought it forward tonight as a notice of motion, but I also understand that it may be in the works that they're coming.
Correct. Yes, we're trying to be proactive and anticipated council would like to receive a presentation from the CRD on this. So just confirming, Ms. Temple, I believe, has an update on the timing of this.
They'll be here on February 26th.
So I can withdraw my notice of motion.
Can I just throw in a comment here?
The UDI sent us quite a substantial letter that's in it, which we received under the consent agenda a couple of months ago, and now Mr. Huggett has delivered a report. I'm wondering whether for the fullness of that conversation, those items could be included on the agenda, or is that to be determined at a later date? What do you think?
Well, my notice of motion didn't include that. It was just to get the presentation by the CRD, to get the update on the DCC portion and the overarching general plan by the CRD. But buried within that CRD plan is a $2 billion expenditure for all municipalities, which is, and I'm not going to comment too much more, but it looks like substantial water rates increases as well as enormous DCC increases to fund that project. So, but I'd like to hear it from the CRD so I understand it. I know that the plan got passed, but that's a component within the general plan. So
There'll be many discussions on this subject over the coming months.
And I think we'll wait for the CRD to make a presentation. Thank you. So moving on to correspondence requiring action. We have 12.1. All of these were brought forward by Mayor Tate.
Your worship, there is one new business item that was added in the supplemental.
Oh, I missed that. Sorry.
It's on the screen.
Okay. Okay. The council appoint Rachel Gray as corporate officer effective January 29th, 2024. So moved by Councillor McMath, seconded by Councillor Bateman. Comment? Question?
I was going to say pourquoi. Is it statutory that we have to have that position? I thought so.
Correct. Yes, this is just a temporary stopgap until we have some permanent staffing in the corporate officer.
Thank you for that. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. All right. So now on to 12.1, guiding lights across BC, request for discussion by Mayor Tate. So I think this is simply a request to staff to actually put on blue lights on the right day. Do we need anything further on that?
Well, there's a recommendation on the screen if you wanted to do it, but I understand that we're prepared to do it anyways. So
is anyone willing to move the recommended motion on? Councilor McMath, thank you very much. Seconded by Councilor Pearson. And that's the council direct staff to install blue lights at the municipal hall in celebration of the Sisterhood of Guiding across BC and beyond on February 22nd. And seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, further, please.
My usual question, where will the funding come for this?
Through the deputy mayor, we already have the lights, so it's just a matter of staff time to install them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were purchased a couple years ago, I believe. And so they just cycle through the bulbs with other various events we do throughout the year.
Okay, yeah.
So yes, no additional cost other than staff time.
During my hiatus, you must have bought some bulbs.
The third year.
Thank you very much. I'll call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much again. Okay, 12.2, request for funding. Whoops, sorry about that. From the Souk Community Association. Okay. So I hope everyone's read the correspondence. I have in my mailbox over here somewhere. A suggestion. There we go, from our. So our mayor did put forward a thought on that one that I'll just read out. She's not here, obviously, but I could do that anyway, I think. She suggested setting up a meeting for the members of the Sioux Community Association to meet with a council member or two and discuss what we should be doing about this. But that's just, I just want to make sure that was just thrown out there. Any further thoughts, or there should be further thoughts from council on this? Councillor Pearson.
I was having trouble understanding, and I probably don't understand yet. So we have the letter, the correspondence, and the community association is seeking the annual funding to sustain their ongoing commitment. We supported this since incorporation without question. I'm not sure what, what's different this time.
I'm unclear myself. Ms. Gray.
Through the deputy mayor, staff reached out, just a bit of further context is staff reached out to the Sioux Community Association to get some further details on what exactly they were looking for, because as you stated, like they get permissive tax exemptions every year for their properties. We have an annual service agreement with them. There's other funding, community grants that are awarded depending on the year, depending on what's happening. As of the time of this meeting, we hadn't heard back on further direction. So to Councillor St. Pierre's comment, Mayor Tate had maybe suggested this is maybe a council initiative, because I believe their ask is maybe something much larger.
They are. I can say it for you. No, page 91, 103. Like, posted to 180,000 to 355,000. It looks like that's the request.
I know, to clarify, sorry, we just can't really address that. So I believe their ask is much larger, and so I think this would warrant a council conversation, I think would be the logical next step from a staff's perspective. This would be what we're anticipating would be a significant ask potentially and potentially complicated. So further direction from council would probably be the next logical step.
Yes, and I actually did read the correspondence as well, and I believe that they also suggested that, for example, a partnership in order to access grants for said lighting or some such, but I think we're looking at a larger conversation to figure out what everybody wants and how to achieve those needs. So I'm looking for, I guess, Councillor Staff set up a meeting between, I guess we're looking for council representation there. Is that what you're suggesting? Okay. Do we have anyone who would like to step forward on this one? Okay, so Councillor McMath how about mayor or representative of mayor?
I will volunteer.
Volunteer? Okay.
For some clear, they asked for some clear
No,
in the agenda.
Yep. Does this work for everyone?
Well,
Yes, please.
I'd definitely like to see a staff, our CAO in the mix for this conversation, or director of finance would be a critical player.
So staff rep, I think it would be good to have staff there for expertise. Is that?
For sure. I mean, whether it needs to go in the actual resolution, but I'm definitely a staff myself or somebody would be represented.
We're not
there.
exempting a staff by not putting it in the resolution. Perfect. Let's just make sure. Okay, good. So do I have a mover for this? Yes?
I'll move that council direct staff to set up a meeting between Councillor McMath, Mayor Tate, Councillor Pearson staff, and the Sioux Community Association to determine the scope of their request.
Okay, a seconder, seconded by Councillor Bateman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Good, that's unanimous. Moving on to rezoning Murray Road. So this is the one that we had so much activity on. So I'm going to open it for discussion. As far as, yes?
Deputy Mayor, sorry. I'm trying to think of what I'm supposed to call you. Apologies, Your Worship.
Just worship me. No, just kidding.
Councillor St. Pierre. Just perhaps Mr. Riley has a brief kind of high level summary of he could provide just of where we're at with this process that may save some
No,
of
that
your
sounds-
questions or
that
some of the
sounds useful.
conversation here. So perhaps he can just give you a quick status update of where we're at, and then that will determine what you guys maybe do with this.
Yeah, so quick update here. Staff, we're currently in communication with the applicant regarding the outstanding items associated with the application itself. So right now it's in the early stages. It's pre-application. Currently we're missing information here. So we've been working with the applicant and they seem to be on board with us in providing these details. So following the correspondence that's in your package right now, we've received further correspondence from the applicant and their agent. And they seem to be working with us to provide that complete application. So we'll be reviewing that internally before we come back to council for first and second reading and consideration at that time.
Thank you very much. So that sounds like they're not necessarily asking for any sort of exemptions or fast tracking as was suggested, and that's perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Okay, so moving on to 12.4. Sorry, are there any further comments from council? Questions, comments? No. Okay. Item 12.4, UBCM Housing Summit 2024. So that's coming up awfully quick, February 13th, 14th. And we need to make a resolution tonight in order to actually arrange for hotels and so on and so forth, and figure out where the money might come from to actually pay for our representation. So do we have councillors that would like to attend? As would I, but I'll.
There's also virtual.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So at this point, oh, so efficient. We're gonna miss you. All right. The council authorized the council authorized. Whoa. Do we want to specify 2 councillors and just leave it at that? Councillors. Put councillors to attend the UBCM Housing Summit in Vancouver on February 13th and 14th, 2024. And the councillor authorized Mayor Tate to attend the UBCM Housing Summit online. And that funding come from the council travel account. Question, comment?
Just before anybody moves this, I think it should be specific to who the counselors are attending, because it's kind of like a blank check right now. So I would just rather specify who's going, so then we know the dollar amount that's getting pulled from contingency.
That's why I suggested 2, but
Yeah, 2 is max.
Sure, whichever way, don't care. I just want a number on there.
Same here. See?
we could do that too. But I think we've got 2 councillors, unless people are truly offended by the vagueness of the motion as it stands. It allow. Do I have a mover for this extraordinarily vague motion? Moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Pearson.
Not vague.
Sorry. Any further discussion of the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. All right, moving right along. Council verbal reports. Item 13. Let's get this going. Councillor Bateman.
Okay, off and running. So last week I was at a climate caucus online session. I was pretty much a silent witness to this was based on the SOOC 2030 Climate Action Plan and its narrative structure, which the Climate Caucus, which is a national organization of folks interested in finding solutions and ways forward with climate action. It was felt that SOOC's approach was novel and demonstrated a very creative way forward. And so Denise Withers, our consultant, was there. Christina spoke much as she did tonight. And Beth Lang from the Fireweed group was also there. So it was a great session. And I advise everyone to go back, have a look at those opening 4 or 5 pages of the Climate Action Plan, because it is a very positive, proactive community vision where we're seeking to build community wellness through things that matter to people at the home base level. That was pretty poorly said. You did it so much better. Okay, I attended the second of the SOOC Food Security Group meetings along with Councillor Lajeunesse and St. Pierre last week. And they're looking very much at an immediate action on food waste and identifying creative ways to distribute it to those in need in the community. And Tony, you might want to speak some more on that a little later. Councillor Lajeunesse and I were both at the Shifting Housing Policy Zoom session, which is very much a mini summit on the new housing legislation. There will be others of that kind of session in the weeks and months ahead. Souk Builders Association luncheon, community action team meeting for the Souk Homelessness Coalition, at which we had quorum. In fact, we had Councillor Beddoes, St. Pierre, who were on the team, and our guests, among our guests were Councillors Lajeunesse and Pearson. And we heard from MLA Ravi Parmar, Macola's Kevin Albers and Alita Tosher, Food Bank's Kim Metzger, Medea Mills was there to speak, as well as Detachment Commander Wilcox. And this was a baseline session where we were just getting a lot of information on the table about the homelessness issue, responses, the BC housing projects in particular. So Don Brown, our facilitator, has followed up and come up with a pretty substantial document on how the BC housing projects are going ahead in terms of their rental policy and occupancy operations matters. So we'll share that. And in fact, it was Councillor Beddoes requested it go to the district. So you'll be seeing that. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Just like to quickly comment, the Climate Caucus that Councillor Bateman was mentioning is actually an association of local government representatives specifically. And so Souk is actually providing best practices. So that's kind of a little feather in our cap. We're the ones providing the best practices. Thank you very much. All right. Who's next? Okay, well, I guess that's me. No, Councilman McMahon? No? No. Okay. So as previously mentioned, as part of, I was at the Homeless Coalition, but I think Councilor Bateman did a very good job covering that. In terms of the food, we're calling it the food policy, but I think it's going to head towards something different, possibly something like Food Systems Network. Who knows? Many people are afraid of policy and don't want to join any group having anything to do with it. I just want to point that out. Policy scares people, but yeah, that's okay. As it happens, it looks like there's some good news on the horizon. There's a food security person who is going to be working on helping various projects, initiatives dealing with food security in the community, providing excellent support. So that's available to just about anyone, including I found private businesses and farms and so on and so forth. So that's an excellent resource for people to tap into. The food bank is working hard with partners to try and basically bring social services and food distribution together and make it more efficient. But we're looking at a second piece of that, which would be more about the growers and food producers and basically aggregation, processing, production, and so on and so forth, which obviously is not the same as food distribution in terms of social services. It was a World Cafe type of thing that included work around providing community pantries, better distribution, and supporting growers. And there was one more rubric that I can't quite remember. But good event, well run, lots of representation from various quarters. And that's it for me. At this point, I think Councillor Pearson.
Just a couple of things. I also took the Homelessness Coalition meeting, which
Homelessness Coalition meeting. Yeah, nobody knows that part. It was very informative. It was great to see the energy in the room, the discussion around what's actually taking place in our community. The collective brains that are at that table are very impressive. Along with the people who can make decisions, there's a lot of people who are on the ground making things happen. Particularly moved by Reverend Alan Tissick and his comments there. You know, there's a man who's been dealing with that front line for his entire life and now retired at, middle 70s, but, a tireless volunteer in our community and selfless volunteer. I also attended the Wantafuka Water Commission meeting on January the 9th. Really businesses next that arose out of that was my Minerals of Promotion. There's a refresh of the master plan in February. They're going to lots of things have happened in the Wantafuka water area. One of the things that was of note, and I was just trying to get the capital budget. There was a issue around, I don't know if any of you were tied up with the Goldstream Avenue water main replacement was an immense project, and when they started on it, it was tendered out. And it went way over budget, and it was way above this. So the CRD staff themselves took it on, and were actually able to come in on time and on budget. It was a significant project. But you know, there's been some challenges within our water district, you know, leaks and water main replacements and things like that, but everything is flowing as it should. And then Water Watch, the last thing is, and I believe on the date of the meeting, we were at 88% reservoir full, which we've had significant rainfall. And if you look at the chart, which I'm sure you guys take time to go look at the chart, we're right where we always are. It's very interesting. It's like the historical data and the number of years that are recorded. We're actually very close to. There's a lot of discussion around the bigger plans that are coming at us. The last but not least was the Souk Builders Association, which I attended with Councillor Bateman and our CAO. And it was some really good news that flowed out of that. Some positive things. Our building inspections are up to date. They were happy with that. But good feedback from the Builders Association as well, from the executive, that they were working well with our new building inspector that was working on the weekends. Seemed to be very positive. There was a couple of items of note which I will bring in notice of motion for our next meeting. But other than that, I don't have anything else to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearson. Councillor Jeunesse.
Yeah, I don't have much detail, but attended the Homeless Coalition meeting, which was really encouraging to see the amount of work that's going on by the various volunteer groups in our community. Much more happening in Souk than what's happening in our neighboring municipalities that way. And so it's really encouraging to see the work that our volunteers do. What else did I do? Hanlon residents tour. I went and looked at some concerns that some residents on Hanlon Avenue have with some development that's in the works there. Souk Food Policy Council, South Island Prosperity Municipal Partners Committee meeting. They're working toward the Rising Economy Week, which takes place March 4th to 6th, I believe, and I would encourage everyone to go. I'm sure our ECDEV officer will be there. She's on her way now. And the CRD Water Commission meeting, and I'm sure that we haven't heard the end of the $2 billion investment that is being proposed. Yeah, what else have I done? I guess that's about it.
Thank you, Councillor Jeunesse. I would like to just mention about the Souk Shelter Society. MLA Parmar was really quite effusive in his praise for the organization and the model, and he's been promoting it. Souk is actually providing, in many ways, better services than communities with just as much need or more resources in some ways. But we're using a completely different model that focuses less on bricks and mortar and more on actually putting people out to get directly with the people in need, provide services, and hook them up with what they might need. And it's a model that seems to be working well. It's not necessarily the end all be all, but it is being promoted. And once again, Souk is, best practice. Just saying. All right. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Looking right there, I should say. And do I have a seconder? Anyone? Councillor Jeunesse. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yep.